Support Projection is the implant of this week, and it so happens to be the last of those that I personally own. This interesting little missiles implant is often overlooked due to its impact on damage levels, but it can be a game changer when used in PvP, thanks to its unique abilities. Whether you fly missiles or not, knowing what tricks your opponent may have up their sleeves is always going to be an invaluable tool. So get yourselves a lovely cup of tea and hit that subscribe button with your little toe as we get into the meat and potatoes of this particular implant. Yeah, I liked writing that one in the script. So, as per usual, we'll be starting out at level 1 with the implant's first ability, Support Projection. Similar to a previous missile implant we've covered in this series, this implant offers us multiple modes to toggle between when out in space. We have our good old regular missiles, the range extending missiles, and the precision missiles. If this sounds somewhat familiar, that's because it is. This ability is identical to Warhead Charge, but for those of you who haven't seen the video that I did for that particular implant, I'll go through it here anyway, just so we know. So, range extending missiles cuts the missile damage by 10%, and in return for that 10% cut, you get a bonus to the missile's flight time, which scales with your implant's level, maxing out at a 30% increase in flight time all the way at level 45. This bonus to flight time is what ultimately yields the longer range. Precision missiles work in the same manner, reducing the damage this time by 15% in order to reduce the explosion radius of your missiles by as much as 50% if you get it all the way up to level 45. What that does is it improves the damage application and makes it much easier for your missiles to hit fast or small targets. So, nice and simple so far. We can press the implant out in space to toggle between our options to fine-tune our missile boats for the situation. So, what makes this implant different from Warhead Charge then? Well, let's take a look at our level 15 skills. Starting of course with In-Flight Retardant Warhead. At the cost of some damage loss which scales with your implant, you'll gain a 20% chance to double your opponent's inertia modifier for 10 seconds. Yes, there is no guarantee that this will trigger, and altering a target player's inertia modifier might seem a little niche at first, but there is likely someone out there who knows how best to use this one. Oh, and the lowest that you can reduce your damage penalty to is 8% at level 45. Note that, just like Warhead Charge, this ability is adding to the list of warhead choices when toggling through the implant whilst out in space. So next up is its flight velocity counterpart, the In-Flight Disruption Warhead. Everything here is the same as the previous effect that I've just described. However, instead of doubling the player's inertia modifier, we are instead reducing the target's maximum velocity by 20%. This most definitely appears to be the more popular choice, I would imagine, as slowing an enemy ship down can have multiple implications, from damage application to positioning and bubbles. If I was a regular missiles PvP pilot, this is probably the one I would pick if I was using this implant. Again, there's no guarantees I'd be using this implant because there are other implants out there. So moving on to level 30, we have the ECM Warhead skill. This skill made waves when the implant was first introduced. Suddenly, players saw their Guardian bubbles actually drop prematurely when out in CTA level fleet engagements. What am I talking about? Well, at the cost of 30% of your damage, and yes, it is 30%, it doesn't scale this time, you get a 5% chance of shutting down a random low slot or mid slot module for 20 seconds. The numbers here don't really do this ability justice, as at a first glance it may seem a bit underwhelming, especially for use in solo PvP. Waiting for that 5% chance to shut down a random module you're probably going to have died in solo PvP before this actually kicks in. But imagine only a couple of players in a fleet using this ability, using this implant with the damage penalty, randomly shutting down enemy Guardian bubbles and allowing the rest of the fleet to cherry pick the vulnerable targets whilst the bubble is down, and whilst the Guardian pilots themselves are yet to realise that their bubbles have even dropped. This can and probably has determined the result in a number of conflicts, especially when this implant first released and people didn't even know that their Guardian bubbles could shut down. So how can we compete with that at level 30 with our other option? Well, let's take a look. Next up we have the EMP Warhead option, which as usual adds to the list of the warhead options that we have. Here we return to seeing the damage penalty scale with the implant's level, capping out at a 37.5% damage loss all the way at level 45. But what do we get for this damage penalty? Well, as each missile hits and damages its target, the target loses capacitor equal to 20% of the damage dealt. Sorry about that little pause then, I kind of lost my place in the script. So the higher the implant's level, the lower the damage penalty and the higher the amount of capacitor loss on the target. This one certainly isn't a chance-based Hail Mary of an ability where solo PvP is concerned, but it can give you the ability to neutralise your enemy's capacitor. Let's say you're out roaming and you happen upon a ratting ship. It can't hit you, but you can't break its tank. You instead use this to assist in draining their capacitor dry before switching back to full damage when they no longer have the capacitor to activate their repair modules. That scenario is just one of many that we could think of for finding use for this particular ability. Just imagine you could build yourself a Blood Raiders missile boat with this one. Just be creative. The implants don't always have to be about which one is best. Sometimes it's just about creating a specific playstyle that you enjoy. So let's move on to the final stages for this implant and look at the level 45 ability Hybrid Charge. Here we can combine range extending and precision missile modes with the other choices that we have already made. How do we do this? Honestly, I don't know. This is where the test server privileges would be amazing, but the developers are yet to even open their doors to new creators. Now, would I combine these options? Maybe, but given the cost of upgrading to 45 and how niche the need for these combinations may be, I would personally just recommend settling at level 30 for this one. That said, if anyone has experience with this one at level 45, feel free to let us know in the comments section. Now that we've covered what this implant can do, let's have a look at how we can get our hands on this particular implant. First up, we're going to head over to the first completion rewards over in Dormant Realms, which unfortunately there isn't a first completion reward for this implant at this particular point in time. But that said, and I don't know why I opened into it before the Abyss here, this is me going a little bit off script, but let's head into the right area. So, okay, it's not available as a first completion reward. How about earning it through the random rewards box? Well, this is where we're in something of a bit of luck. Before the Abyss drops this particular implant. So if we have a look at the topmost one, we can see here both Advanced Support Projection and Experimental Support Projection. So we can get these in the Dormant Realm before the Abyss, otherwise known as DR2. This is one of the most popularly ran Dormant Realms, and I happen to have a tutorial for it on my channel if you haven't found it already. But let's say for whatever reason you've not been getting lucky with spawning this particular implant. Maybe you aren't even tech level 10 yet and you can't get somebody to bring you along into this particular Dormant Realm. No matter, let's have a look at the marketplace. And one thing that I did notice from when I was writing the script for this particular video, and yes, I am going a little bit off script here, is this is one of the more affordable implants to be able to purchase. Why do I say that? Well, the experimental one is available on the market for 172 million ISK. Well, 173. I'm just reading numbers here and not reading the whole thing. So we can get it for a reasonable price, I'd say. If we move along to basic, it is once again on the market for 800 mil. Standard is, what are we looking at? 2.8 billion. And advanced, as we'd expect it to be quite expensive, 4.3 billion. It's not an outlandish amount, especially for what it is, considering to get that implant all the way up to level 45, you're probably going to be spending 100 bill anyway. I don't know if that number's up to date, but once upon a time it probably was 100 bill to get it to level 45. And yeah, this about rounds off this week's Implant Spotlight Highlight Showcase tutorial thingy. As I work through what's left of the implants, let me know in the comment section below what you'd like to see me cover every week after I've concluded this implant series. Maybe it's the different weapon types, nanocore showcases, or something else I haven't thought of yet. Making content is so much easier when I have a format like this to give this channel a little structure. I'm also putting together a Discord server for this channel with an area dedicated to players finding new groups for Dormant Realm runs, whether that be DR2 or another one. It's not publicly available as of yet. I need to make sure I actually know what I'm doing with regards to permissions, channels, bots, etc. But keep your eyes pierced as I expect it to be public before Christmas hits. But anyways, enough rambling. Thanks again for your support, and I bid you fly casual. See you guys and girls in the next video.